Joining us now on Mike Tomano's Wild and Free is Shooting USA host Jim Scoutten, America's most watched and trusted firearms reporter. Jim, it's an honor to have you on the show. How are you?
Well, it's delightful to spend a little time talking with the man from Kankakee. I'm not sure if you're going to trust me, Mike, but that's a very flattering interview. But we certainly have been doing gun reporting for a very long time.
You have. I had the pleasure of meeting you at the NRA convention, and I was telling you before we started the interview, so many purchases that I've made, whether it's ammo or a handgun or a shotgun, has been based on the tests that you folks do there. Now, how does that happen? How do you guys get in touch with a sponsor, or do they say, hey, we want to send you this stuff? And it's kind of like a restaurant critique. They never know which way it's going to go.
Well, they don't. And frankly, we actually approach this stuff from being fortunate to have high-quality sponsors, all right, in that sense. So, once in a while we'll get something in and the gun's got a flaw in it, but rather than jump on television and embarrass the company, we'll say, hey, do you guys know this particular gun that you sent to us, locked up on us and that sort of thing. So we don't choose to go out there and lay waste to somebody, although once in a while I have had some oddball answer to a question nobody asked that would show up. A few years ago we had a semi-auto revolver, and it's like, okay, who thought that up and why? So that, once in a while we find ourselves amused at something somebody's created, but for the most part, we're very pleased to have folks who make quality ammunition, and we can rely on it. We know it works. We've been in their factory and seen how they test it to make sure every batch gets tested. So that's a pretty comfortable feeling when we're talking about something on television, that anything we're going to suggest is worth paying attention to is going to be a quality product when the audience ends up in their gun shop, picking it up in their hand and thinking about buying it.
And the gun manufacturers have to love the fact that they have this group of experts that can really do some quality control testing for them as well.
Well, they do, and we react, to be quite honest about it. I don't want to suggest that we're underwriters' laboratories or anything of the sort. We really aren't. We're reacting based on the fact that we're consumers, and we've seen a lot of guns. I mean, I know what I like and I know what fits in my hand, but that's just me, and so we always have to qualify that here's how we are reacting to this, and here are the positive benefits that we've found about this particular handgun. And yes, there is a relationship between how much space there is between the web of where your thumb attaches to your hand and how far above that is the bore axis of that pistol. And the greater distance, the more leverage that gun's going to have and the more felt recoil you're going to have. So, I mean, some of these things are us talking about how we react to shooting a gun and how it feels to us, and some of it, as best we can, we'll explain, the design engineering behind it that makes this one more attractive to us. Now, you can take my word for it or not. You can go out and buy some competing product, and that's fine, but we try to do this in a way that you'll have the same experience subject to the size and shape of your hand, and that's the real key thing. The only real solution for what handgun you're going to buy is getting into a good quality gun store and one after the other trying them and seeing how they feel.
Right.
And that's the connection between man and machine.
Mm-hmm. Well, Shooting USA, 1 hour Wednesdays here on the Outdoor Channel, 2 p.m.
Wednesday nights, all across the country. We're delighted to be with Outdoor Channel. This is, not everybody knows this, I've been doing gun shows for 18 years, which proves I'm a really old guy. Actually, I get people walking up to me like at the NRA show, and there's this 30-year-old guy standing in front of me, who's like 6'6" or something, and says, "Yeah, I remember when I was a little kid, I used to watch your show with my dad." And it's like, "Oh, you're killing me!
Yeah, I get that too. I used to listen to you when I was in grade school.
Yeah, right. Yeah, thank you. Good to have you as a fan. Just stand over there and don't remind me how old I am.
Right.
No, but we've been doing it 18 years. We have been on 4 different television networks originally. I mean, if somebody's in the audience who doesn't know the history, 4 years on ESPN, 5 years on TNN, 3 years on OLN, and then finally this most recent move to a very comfortable home outdoor channel.
Yeah.
What the audience doesn't know is why we moved, and that's because progressively these networks all got bought by big companies out of mostly out of New York City, the center of all media. And the new owners, looking around at what they bought, and they were astounded to find that they had a positive image gun show on their network, because New York City folks are not exactly pro-gun. So we've always been one step ahead of the folks coming through with big piles of cash and saying, "Wait a minute, we can't have a gun show on this network. My God, we're opposed to guns." So that was the last move when MTV Networks bought TNN. So,
yeah, that's the end of that. Well,
nonetheless, Outdoor Channel, as far as we can tell, is the emerging network and the strongest of the outdoor category networks. So
it
works well.
Great network. And, you're talking about the anti-gun movement, very vocal, very unified. It astounds me that with an estimated 100 million gun owners in America, there are only 4 million NRA members. How do you suggest we get our collective a little bit more active?
Well, we work at it. In fact, we were named to reach around and pat myself on the back, but it's really a piece of good works that we've been at for a long time. We were the number one independent recruiter for the NRA in 2011. And I've got a little nagging 20-second bit that appears in every show we do about how the most important money you'll spend this year is on all of the shooting things you do is for your NRA membership. I think there has been forever that division where hunters with their rifles, with their muzzleloaders, imagine that they are not subject to these threats to gun rights. And they just don't seem to pay attention to how much work the NRA does on behalf of hunters' rights in terms of opening up federal lands, which is a constant battle, to hunting and shooting, just in terms of preserving shooting ranges, which is a fight everywhere as residential development moves up next to a shooting range that's been there for 50 years, and people are living there going, wait, there's too much noise in this neighborhood. And it's like, we got to shut this gun range down. Well, they're out there constantly. The NRA is promoting, protection laws in the various states that simply guard shooters' rights. And, of course, you, sir, are right smack in the middle of the only state remaining, how would that happen, that does not permit any form of concealed carry.
Does not have a Second Amendment. However, that will change, and my fear is, it's inevitable that it will get a concealed carry permit here in Illinois. However, the powers that be will make it extremely difficult for anyone to pursue that endeavor.
Yeah, powers that be are on the north side of your state.
Amen.
And Pike County, I'm sure you followed that story.
They're my heroes.
Legal open carry down there, just to be provocative about it. And, of course, we've been to Pike County a number of times. That's Quincy and Barry, and many, many championships have been shot at Paso Park in Barry, Illinois over the years. So we know those folks. That is gun-friendly territory, but if you want to hunt for whitetail, you better go across the river to Missouri.
Yep.
So you guys do have your challenges, and of course that's what's happening in guns right now.
Right.
Handguns for carry are back ordered from here to Smith & Wesson headquarters in Springfield, Missouri, or Springfield, Massachusetts.
Oh, you're right. And I've ordered a couple, and never before have I had people say, "I'll have to call you when I get it in." And it both elates me, but it aggravates me. Now I have to wait.
Nobody wants to wait for it.
No.
You can look around at what's being offered, but and of course this new M&P Shield that we were involved in helping Smith announce it the day before the NRA annual meeting opened in St. Louis is a huge success right now. So they've got themselves another winner as a full power carry gun that's actually controllable. You can do something with it. You can actually hit things with it. If I can hit a target with it, it's a shooter. So I actually manage that.
I want to go back to the NRA before we move forward. We're talking
Sure.
with Jim Scoutten from Shooting USA. Really, the NRA does so much for hunters, and I think people need to. You hit it right on the head because without the hunters getting behind the shooting sports, we're really missing out. And the NRA is also at the forefront of protecting private property rights. Whether your method of hunting is using bait or using dogs or hunting in an enclosure on private property, the NRA is now at the forefront of protecting. There's people who own pigs and exotics who are not allowed to manage their own livestock because of animal rights right now, and the NRA is helping that as well. And I want to give them kudos for that.
Well, at the very least, we know this much, Mike. They are standing up to the nonstop efforts to stop hunting, to stop trapping the animal rights groups. And obviously PETA is the first name that comes to mind. They are just trying any possible tactic to delay opening public lands to shooting and hunting.
Oh, sure.
They'll do anything. And
they're buying off legislation. We could just call it as it is,
Yep, absolutely.
And if people don't, and I don't mean to paint all politicians as being able to be bought off, but if you don't, not all politicians are aware of the gun situation. Not all of them are passionate about hunting or guns, and so the more they hear from people, that will sway their decision. And if we don't start writing letters and calling, we will lose that. And that's why we count on people like Jim Scoutten and all the folks at Shooting USA and also the NRA to do that for us. And now with the current political climate, gun sales are soaring and more women are getting a gun for personal protection. Jim, what's your advice for a woman looking to get into the shooting sports and buy a handgun for personal protection?
Well, two issues, and I will immediately jump on your statement, buy a handgun for personal protection. That's one kind of gun, and buy a handgun and get involved in the shooting sports. We're very happy to encourage that, but that's another gun. And I get emails all the time. What gun should I buy because I want to have a gun to protect my house, and I might want to shoot at the range. And over the years, I absolutely believe there is no one gun solves all these needs problems. Now, that means, I'm going to tell you, you need a couple of things. You want to know what you're going to protect your house with. I'm going to tell you my preference, and I've actually got three of them because my house is kind of spread out, since you never know where you're going to be when the emergency happens. I prefer a classic pump shotgun with low-velocity buckshot. I can tell you a story about trying to show my 5-foot wife how to shoot a pump shotgun, but stupid husband picks up a handful of high brass duck loads, which happened to be available, looked like shotgun shells to me. And this was a, and I still have it, a Winchester Defender, which is a 7-round full tube magazine pump gun with a relatively short barrel. And I got her all lined up out in the woods, and it's not going to help her unless she tries this thing, and so. Here I loaded it up with high brass, not magnums, but close to it. She pulled the trigger on that thing. We got about 3 feet of flame out of the front of it, and it knocked her right on her lovely behind.
Oh, no.
And of course, she said, this probably isn't going to work for me. So the next day, dumb husband went out and bought some low-velocity, low-recoil buckshot, and that's out there, and it's exactly for that purpose. So that's one answer to what gun should I have.
Now, Jim, was your wife that calm when she fell down and she just said, I don't think this is going to work for me?
Yes, I'd be candid about it. I've tried a couple of prior wives, and this one was selected because she is first and foremost a good sport.
There you go.
And so, yeah, we have the ability for me to make a mistake.
There you go.
Not be exiled permanently for it.
Yeah, I know how that works.
But anyway, as far as concealed carry, the little guns, the 380s, have been selling like crazy. Smith has their Bodyguard 380 autoloader with the laser included. Ruger's been real hot in that with their LCP little carry pistol. These are little tiny black guns you can put it in your pocket or you can lose it in your purse. I've got a little bit of a concern about those guns, which we can talk about if you like, but nonetheless, those have been hot because they're so convenient. You can hide them anywhere. You can guy can put it in his pants pocket and nobody knows.
Right.
The full-power guns, like this new M&P Shield, very thin, relatively lightweight. By that I mean it weighs 19 ounces unloaded, which is, just a bit over a pound.
Yeah.
My personal gun that I've carried for years is and I'll show this to ladies because it's easy to understand a revolver. It's the Smith & Wesson Airlight TI titanium cylinder, alloy frame, weighs 14 ounces, less than a pound, loaded with 5 shots of 38 plus P. My theory is that if you buy too much gun and you're carrying too much ammo in the magazine, we got guys walking around who insist they can't go off their front porch without a 1911. Well, that's fine. But
yeah.
You're going to have about 4 pounds of gun hanging on you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem is if you got too much gun and too much weight, it'll be in the glove box when you need it, and Murphy's Law says you will need it when you don't have it, and if you have it with you, you won't need it. I mean, that's Murphy. He's always been that way. So, and my theory is I won't need more than 5 shots because I'm not likely to be confronted by an 8-man gang from the inner city.
Right.
So everybody's got to assess their own situation. So, but again, the little guns in 380, and there's some pretty effective 380 available now. The ammo makers have responded. Those are very hot with both guys and gals.
Okay.
But frankly, I think there's a potential problem with guns that small. So
what's that?
That's me. Well, all right. They're small. They're black. They're designed as a hideout. And so you're confronted by a bad guy. And so you pull it out. And it's so small, you may have in the dark, which is where attacks tend to occur, you might have just drawn your cell phone. The perp can't tell. Whereas if you pull out a J-frame revolver, that looks like a gun.
Right.
So it's Scoutten's theory, I can't prove it, that if you carry one of the small black little guns, you are more likely to have to shoot to tell the perp he has to stop. So at the very least, I obviously recommend having one with a laser like the Smith, or putting a Crimson Trace laser grip on it, so
Right.
at least you can put the laser in his eyes and he'll begin to get the message it's not a cell phone.
Right.
So again, unproven, but that's Scoutten's theory that when you have to draw a gun, it ought to look like a gun because, as American Rifleman reports month after month, there's countless situations where showing a gun stopped the threat.
And that's what we're looking for.
Having to shoot.
We're looking to subdue the situation, not necessarily have to shoot. That's
you're going to change your life if you shoot a deserving perpetrator,
right.
Big time. Now we're going to have lawsuits and so on. And as we've seen down in Florida, you may have an hysterical public demanding through the media that you be prosecuted when what it was a perfectly good save your life shooting.
Yep.
But there are literally hundreds, if not 1,000 times each month where the showing of a gun is sufficient to end what was escalating into a violent confrontation.
No, you're right. I had someone come through my front door in my quiet neighborhood a few St. Patrick's days ago, and my wife had my Ruger SP-101 in my hand in a second and 911 on the cell phone. And the one thing they kept telling me is, do not shoot him. The woman on the 911, try not to shoot this guy. Whatever you do, don't shoot him. And it's easy for her to tell me that, but my heart was in my throat. And but my presentation of the gun did kind of change his demeanor a bit too.
Yeah, well, that's one of those happy stories where
because I didn't want to shoot him. I was you really. There's some brain triggering that goes off there, and there's all kinds of stuff going through your head at that moment.
Oh, and a lot of adrenaline going through your body and working its way towards your trigger finger. So my compliments to you that you came out of that one without changing your life.
Yeah.
And of course, that's the downside. I mean, everybody knows, even in the state of Illinois, where they're going to examine what you did very closely, I'm sure, the choice is between your life and the other guys.
Right.
And that's an easy choice that I could make if it's my front door and my family being threatened. So
Jim Scoutten with us from Shooting USA, now on the Wednesday slot on Outdoor Channel. You can catch it at 2, 7, and 11 p.m. on Wednesdays, Shooting Wednesdays. And it really is like going to school every week with these guys. I got to tell you, my favorite caliber for a handgun is .357, and I've always liked that. And
really,
yeah,
so you're a tough guy.
Well, I like the versatility of it. If I want to shoot big flames, I can get crazy, and if I want to shoot .38s, I can be economical and plinking.
Well, all true. And Mike, you're welcome to your .357. Frankly, that Magnum, our view is not anywhere near its potential unless you've got it coming through at least 4 inches of barrel.
Okay.
And which is why the gun that I carry, which is actually suitable and will contain .357. This is my carry gun with about 2-inch snubby J-frame. I pack around .38 Special plus P.
Okay.
Because of two things. Number one, I don't have enough tube to get up to that velocity. Number two, when I have tried it, we originally demonstrated it for television some years ago when I got it. Took 2 shots for the camera with .357, and it tried to separate my thumb. So you also got to be looking at the weight of the gun,
right?
Because in recoil, the weight of the gun is your friend, and the less it weighs, so it's convenient for carry now. Man, you're going to have a handful when you pull the trigger on a .357. Frankly, over the years, I would much rather shoot a .44 Magnum than a .357 because that sharp recoil that comes from that
huge velocity. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it always tended to. Like I've got a Colt Anaconda from years ago. And and a Cobra, and the .357 would try to twist the grip out of my hand, and that's with a 3 or 4 inch barrel on it. I've forgotten which it is. So
my Smith & Wesson 66, but I don't think they make that anymore. I think it's a 686 now, but the 66 model that I have that's a 4-inch barrel is a really accurate gun.
Oh yeah, there you go.
And in the Ruger SP 101, I do shoot .38s out of that because it's a little snubby one, and I have made the mistake of shooting .357 out of that, and it's like shooting a cannon out of your hand.
Well, yeah, it's a cannon try to jump out of your hand,
yeah.
which is part of the fun. Well, and of course we've shot the Smith 500 Magnum.
Yeah, that's a biggie.
Dirty Harry's new gun.
Yeah, right.
And that thing weighs nearly 5 pounds.
Holy cow.
I think I've got the 10-inch barrel model with a compensator on the end of it. And that's a good thing, and that's another one with that much barrel. You pull the trigger on that, and you get about 3 feet of flame out of it, and so on. But you may get tired of holding it up before you pull the trigger, but you're going to be happy that it's heavy when you do. So.
Well, now one of the perks of your job, obviously, and your history with guns is the amount of guns you get to shoot and check out. Let's go through these. I want to pick your brain a little bit. And
all right.
I want to know. So, what's your favorite revolvers of all time? Just a couple of babies that you love.
Well, the Python, the Colt Python, is a collectible. I've got one that I've had for years, and it's got that beautiful bright bluing on it, polished back from the days when the Colt craftsmen were making these. They quit making them years ago, and so that's kind of a collectible. And in terms of personal use, some of the 8-shot revolvers that are available now from Smith are really kind of close the gap between autoloaders and revolvers. And I like revolvers because they're very simple. They always work.
Yeah,
you
me
don't
too.
have to practice tap, rack, and reload and whatever. If you've got the potential of an autoloader is always there, that one dented round is going to take you out of action. So revolvers are simple and functional and generally always work. Now, one other revolver answer, I have a pair of third-generation Colt Peacemakers that have been gunsmithed by Bob Munden.
Oh, wow.
And they are just the slickest action. I mean, you cannot imagine what Bob does to these guns.
Right.
And he's still doing that work. And so that means I should be really good at cowboy action shooting.
You're right.
I'm not, but boy, do I have the guns for it. So
Well, one day, right?
those are a treat. Yeah.
Yeah, Bob.
Well, you have to
you
remember,
can't
I'm
compare
not
yourself to
paid
Bob
be
Munden, though. I mean, he's like uncanny.
He is.
Yeah,
He is.
that's freakish. He's like Bob Munden to fast shooting is like Buddy Rich was to the drums.
There you go.
You know,
There you
it's
go.
like where did this come from? It's an anomaly. Now, that said, what are some of your favorite pistols?
Well, I'm a big fan of the M&P series.
Okay.
And I kind of alluded to that earlier when we were talking about the engineering of a gun and how it affects how it feels and how it shoots. So the M&P, as most everybody knows, you can buy a 4-inch standard M&P 9 in 9mm. You can come up to 40 caliber for whatever your purpose may be. And you can have the 45 ACP. And the 45, when it came out, is the softest felt recoil shooting 45 I've ever pulled a trigger on. And that goes back to that design engineering where they managed to get the basically the web where you grip the gun closer to the axis of the bore than any other gun I've tried. Prior to that, I was kind of a fan of the Springfield XD. And I thought, oh, this is great. I like the multiple safeties and so on and so forth. But if you get a chance to put one down beside an M&P, you'll see the difference in the distance between the top of the grip and the bore axis. And it's real simple. Remember high school physics that I was sleeping through. The closer you get the bore to the top of your hand, the less leverage it has when you pull the trigger.
Right.
And so a big fan of that. And, of course, the adjustable grips can fit it to my hand. So that's the current favorite. It does not hurt that Smith & Wesson is a substantial sponsor of the show. But in this case, I don't have to tell you that there's full disclosure right there. But
Yeah.
I don't have to tell you I like it because they're a sponsor of the show. I like it because I like shooting it. So simple as that.
Yeah, and their popularity speaks for itself, too.
Well,
Smith &
and
Wesson has always meant craftsmanship to me.
Well, they're making tracks, real good progress at taking back the police business that Glock ran away with starting about 20 years ago. And it certainly pleases me that we've got real American citizens building those guns in the USA. And there are very few companies other than the guys who made your SPO-1, your Ruger, who are actually building guns in this country.
Right.
So the competition comes from South America, and certainly, of course, it comes from Austria.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely does. And now, Ruger, whenever I'm at these shows, I always stop at the Ruger booth. I always stop at the Smith & Wesson booth. I've been shooting Smith & Wesson my whole life. But at the last NRA convention, I handled a Kimber solo carry 9mm. I don't shoot a lot of 9mm, but I just love the way this gun felt in my hand. Have you done a review for that one yet?
We haven't. And Kimber, frankly, kind of got themselves caught short by the release of the M&P Shield. The price differences are significant.
Yeah.
And of course, Kimber, who is well known for making 1911s, they did theirs on a sort of a miniature 1911 design, which may or may not be a good thing. Everybody can make their own decision about that. And who else just came out with something similar? Was it SIG? Am I getting that right?
No, you're right.
So.
Yeah.
And, so what happened is these guys landed in the market at about $600 to $700 at the same time the M&P landed at a trading price of, in some cases, under $400. So Smith just rewrote the business of having a quality, full-power carry gun in 9. And, of course, 9 had a bad reputation, still has a bad reputation among the military. There's two reasons for that. One, we've seen the Army gunsmiths test these things. The M9 Beretta, as the Army buys them, which they've been doing ever since they dropped the 1911, 30 years ago, the first of all, that Beretta, that military issue Beretta, shoots like a damn shotgun.
Right.
We've got targets from 25 feet where there's the spread of the bullets. The group was like the size of a dinner plate. The other problem, of course, and people don't think about it much, the 9 got a bad rep because it wasn't carrying the knockdown power.
Mm-hmm.
Well, everybody forgets we have a Geneva Convention where the military must shoot full metal jacket ammo. They cannot shoot in combat hollow points. Sure, there's some special operations units that get around that, but that cannot be an issue round. Well, there is a heck of a difference between a 45 ACP full metal jacket, and its energy applied to the target, and a 9mm full metal jacket. But what nobody really is paying a lot of attention to is how much development there has been in the civilian and law enforcement channels in high performance 9mm. So you no longer have to be concerned that you're not throwing enough energy at the bad guy. You certainly are doing that with some of the premium 9mm protection rounds. So those two things come together, and that makes these 9mm handguns pretty effective compared to some of the complaints that persist from 20, 30 years ago.
Right. Let's go back to Smith & Wesson. We're talking with Jim Scoutten. We've had him on today's program, and I could sit and talk with you all day, and someday I will.
We're closing in on that today.
I'm going to come and visit you, and I would love to go through your gun collection someday. That would be an honor for the TV show, I think. Would you allow us to do that, or would that be...
Come on down.
All right, very good.
Yeah, no, we have the gun room that we host the show from, and it's actually, and I get emails all the time, is that really your gun room?
Right.
And the answer is that is exactly what I'd have in my basement if my basement had a 15-foot ceiling. And they go, oh, yeah, TV lights. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, I got you covered. There you go.
But, it's actually a 360-degree set.
I'd love to see it.
We can shoot in any direction. So when Son John is doing a project, in fact, they're working on a couple of those, taping them this morning. When they are shooting at that end, that's there. We turn on the lights down there and roll tape, and we got it. And then the other end, which has got actually the guns on the wall. If you've seen my strangeness for whatever reason, I'm in love with walnut service rifles.
Right.
So I've got every service rifle all the way back to the trap door that followed. It's not the earliest trap door, but that was the immediate development for leaving the muzzle loading era of the Army and moving into the self-contained cartridge. But all of that stuff on that end is obviously there as a suitable background for what we do. But yeah, come on down. The only thing you won't be able to tell from the outside is what goes on in here.
Yeah, right.
Because the police consider what we do to be what they call an attractive nuisance.
Yeah.
And so if you come up and stick your face up against the front windows and look as hard as you can, you won't see anything that doesn't look like a perfectly ordinary office.
I love it. That's great.
There's usually 200 to 300 guns in here at any point in time. And obviously, we run a little heavier security than most places.
Yeah, I hear you. That sounds like a good time. I think my next purchase is going to be a Smith & Wesson. Is it the 700, the 10-shot 22 long rifle pistol?
No, wait. The Model 41 is the high-quality one.
Yeah, it's the 10-shot, right? That is just...
the 22s are all 10 shots.
Yeah, how cool is that?
They don't have any conflict anywhere. But,
that's amazing.
Yep, that's hard to get. Right?
They're another one. You got to get it back ordered. It's amazing.
Well, and they've been adding people. In fact, Smith has been hiring a lot of veterans who have come back from the wars, and so they're doing well with that. They've hired some disabled veterans as well.
Oh, bless them.
But they're scrambling to find enough technicians. They get factory space. They get machine space. But not everybody knows that you have to be highly skilled to assemble a revolver.
Mm-hmm.
And they're called revolver fitters, and they're training them as fast as they can. But these are the guys who actually, when they put the cylinder in, time it so that before the hammer falls, the bore the charge hole that's going to fire is lined up with the forcing cone, and that is, that's craftsmanship stuff. So some of this stuff is just limited in terms of who they can find who can actually build these guns.
Right.
But it's what we call a high-class problem. There's a lot more guns being demanded by the public than Ruger can build, than Smith can build, and obviously that's good for them, and it's also good for the public that we are arming ourselves. What are we afraid of?
Right.
We know what's coming, Mike.
Yep, we do indeed, and that's why get ready to go, because it's not going to get easier. Jim Scoutten, Shooting USA, now Wednesdays, 2, 7, and 11 on the Outdoor Channel here. And next week, it's the International Defensive Pistol Competition.
Right.
And also, you're going to talk to the man who founded Crimson Trace, that's going to be awesome.
Oh, it's a fun story. It's a fun story. It goes back to every once in a while we find guns and cars. Well, now we've got to expand it because we found guns, cars, and in the case of Lou Danielson, the chairman now and the original founding engineer of Crimson Trace, the laser grip people. Lou is a Harley buff.
Uh-oh.
I've got a couple as well. So I took my helmet, my leather jacket, my boots, and we went to Oregon, which is where they're located, obviously. And Lou loaned me one of his Harleys, and he rode his hot rod, totally redone sleeper bike, where he bored it out and ported it and flowed the heads and all that. And it became another one of those gun guys who are also interested in cars stories.
All right.
Of course, we've done stuff like that in the past with Les Baer. Les has a phenomenal collection of restored muscle cars. But this time now I have to expand my saying. So it used to be guns, cars, it's all internal combustion. Now it's gun, cars, and hot rod Harleys.
Hogs, there you go.
Internal combustion.
All right.
Anyway, fun story, profile on Lou. Good guy, and we did some riding in Oregon. So
we'll be with you. That's Wednesday.
That's coming up Wednesday as well.
Yep. 2 p.m., 7 p.m., and 11 p.m. on the Outdoor Channel. Jim Scoutten, it's a pleasure, my friend, and promise you'll come back real soon.